Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Unverified Accounts Pod.
Yes.
How are you doing, Micayla?
Great. I'm here.
That
Still
doesn't
here.
seem great, but okay.
Okay. All right. That that wasn't your you weren't supposed to pick up on that. Thanks.
Okay. You want to introduce the topic?
Yes, I'm trying. So, our topic today is going to just be like our inner child. We're unpacking things in our childhood and doing some shadow work as the girls call it. Um but yeah, that's the gist of it. Just asking ourselves and our inner selves, our inner children, questions that maybe we should have thought about before now. But yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll read the first question. Um, as a child, what do you feel you needed and didn't receive growing up? You look
No,
frozen.
I know that was the point.
Okay.
You see those videos where people just stop and hope that people just hang up. So you said something that we needed as a child and didn't get.
hmm
I would say just more of a male presence or a solid male figure in my life. I had my granddad who was my bestie, my twin, where have you been? But other than that, I mean, I didn't have like I had one uncle, but he always lived out of state. And in recent years, it's kind of been real gray with that
hmm
relationship. And I don't know. Like that's it. It's just me and my mom. I don't have any like brothers that I grew up with. I have two brothers, but they're older and they didn't live even in the same state. So I just never really had a constant male role model or guidance. And so I needed that because child, I'm realizing maybe, had a little bit more impact than I thought. So that's cute. What about you?
I'm just gonna move my phone because my dad texted me. I don't want it to buzz.
Mhm.
Um, for me, I would say definitely someone to like defend me and stand up for me, like protect me.
Mhm.
Because growing up, it was plenty of times where I would come to my parents or my mom about something, or my mom would allow me to be in spaces or like kind of force me to be in spaces where I wasn't really being treated the best.
Mhm.
And uh I really had no one to like stand up for me. Because as much as I like didn't want to be in those spaces or like was being yelled at church and all that stuff, like it was like, well, you have to be a part of the youth choir. You have to participate because if you don't, you're not doing anything. And yeah, so definitely, definitely that. That's
Got it.
a lot to unpack right there.
She said, and that's enough and seen.
Yeah.
Um, all right. I guess I'll ask the next
hmm
one. So what do you admire most about your parents?
Um, I would say I love that they kind of, well, not kind of, they definitely allowed me to be creative. Like they never um doubt me or
Mhm.
tell me like or never told me like, are you sure you want to do fashion? Are you sure? Like they never did that to me. Like if I wanted to take dance classes, I was taking dance classes. If I wanted to take a drawing class, I was taking a drawing class, a painting class. Like they found me someone to teach me how to sew, and they always nurtured that side of me. So I'm really grateful for that because a lot of other parents would have been like, no, you need to be a doctor, lawyer,
Yeah.
nurse, something. Yeah.
Or like, cause I I went to school. I was older than her. I think she was a freshman when I was a senior, but she had two older brothers, and one of the brothers was older than me, and the other one was in my grade. And I remember we were on the track team together, and I remember her, or no, I think it was during basketball season, because we weren't on the same team, but like we would see each other, whatever. But she has said something about like her parents literally like picked each class for her, and like her brothers were, I remember I was 2 years ahead in math, but her brother that was in my year, he was 3 years ahead, because I was like, you started high school in pre-calc, like what? And I remember she had said something like, my parents made me do X, Y, and Z because I was in algebra 2 and I wasn't in pre-calc. Like, girl, you're still 2 years ahead. Like, those types of parents like scare
It's
me,
scary.
because I get certain things. Like, I get, okay, you need to play an instrument. Even okay, if you choose the instrument, it's like, but to choose the instrument, to choose the classes, to say, and then when you have siblings and you're comparing, like, well, your brother or your sister is doing this, you need to be doing this. And it's like,
Hmm.
first of all, we're two different people. Second of all, like, it didn't make sense, because she was literally like, I could see if she was behind and it was like, girl, get it together, but you're literally still 2 years ahead. So that's like, if they would have told me, like, you need to get it together. You need to take this over the summer because your brother is, that's the quickest way to be estranged from your family, because I would never. I'd be like, all right, thanks, mom. I'm changing my number and I won't tell you. But for me, I'm just gonna go with my mom. Um, what I admire, oh no, the most, it's so many things. And mother, if you're listening, I adore you, obviously, girl. But I would say just the fact that she raised me by herself and still was able to have a very successful career as a doctor. And she still put me first. Like, I can remember there was like one time ever in high school that she missed a basketball game or a track meet. And it was like senior year. And that was the only time. And then maybe middle school, she missed like one game that was on a Saturday and she had to work. But my grandparents were there. So it was always somebody there. But I admire that, because it's like when you get older and you're like, how did you do that? Because I can't even watch TV and eat my food at the same time. How did you do all of this? So I admire that, because like I said, she always put me first and was still able to do everything else that she wanted to in her career. Like, even she used to be on call at the hospital. And at a certain point, she was like, I'm not going to be going to the hospital anymore. I'm not going to be on call, because I like, it was just, as a kid, she was like, it was just too hard. Like, you had to wake you up early in the morning, take you to your grandparents' house. Like, it wasn't worth it. And I'm just like, you love me? You love me? Oh my God, for real, please. So yeah, I would say that. Another thing is just she's always there, but like supportive as well, whether it's money, whether it's, encouragement or whatever. Like, it's always, even to this day, when I tell you my mama could tell me something and I'll be like, I wish you hadn't have told me that, because I really am going to use your judgment and your opinion. I will call her like, Mom, where should I park? Like, literally, where should I park? Where should I park here or should I park there? Like, stupid stuff. But yes, I definitely admire that whole raising a kid pretty much by yourself, and was able to put me through the best schooling as a middle schooler, the best schooling as a college student, because Spelman College is the number one HBCU. Just had to put that out there. Sorry. Whoops, that slipped out. But yeah, I would say that's the main thing. Just love that girl. Love her. All right.
Okay. The next question is, who encouraged your opinions growing up
My
and your
mother,
dreams?
my mother encouraged me in my dreams. I had a couple like art teachers who saw my artistic abilities and just like took not necessarily took me under their wing, but just like paid attention to me. And anytime I made something, painted something, drew something, it was like, like, oh, we love Micayla. And then I would say my grandparents definitely, but it wasn't like I never really had that like this is what I want to do talk with them because as I got older, they were getting older. So when I was younger, it wasn't as much like, yeah, I want to, it was, I want to be an artist. I want to do this. But they still supported. They were at my basketball games. Or I remember in first grade, I had made this drawing and like, you know how, I don't know if you had it, but they would like make things that the kids made into things that the parents could have or whatever. So they had this
Mm-hmm.
thing where you could like we would draw something and they could buy it, whether it was a mug, a cup. So my grandparents bought a mug with my drawing on it. They both had t-shirts, like, and still had the t-shirts when I was a teenager. They would wear around the house sometimes. So just things like that, I would say was, yeah, like I had a very supportive environment growing up on my mother's. But yeah.
Mm. For me, I honestly don't really know because I feel like I've always been so like observant,
Hmm.
that I kind of just I always take everyone's thoughts and opinions into account, but I don't necessarily always side or like go with what they say.
Hmm.
Um, which is funny to say because I really do like strongly revere their opinion. So I feel like
Hmm.
I'm always like trying to be the best I can be for them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I believe or um like I don't know that they kind of created like put me one way or the other because I feel like honestly my opinions are very different than my parents and my grandparents.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I don't feel like anyone nurtured my dreams for
Hmm.
real. They just kind of let me, I mean, I guess my parents and my grandparents, but they never really like, nobody was ever like, oh, Sydney, you should do fashion. It was, everything
Yeah.
was my
They
idea.
let you, they let
Yeah.
you and you were free to do things, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like necessarily I got you. Because for me,
Yeah.
it was more so like if I wanted to do this, if I wanted to be a basketball player, I was put in basketball camps. And my mom was always telling me how good I am. Or, after a game, she's like, I don't know how you made that pass, or, whatever. And so she was very much, or I wanted to play the drums, drum lessons, so the
Mm-hmm.
things I wanted to do, she was encouraging of them. She made sure that it was, I guess nurtured if we're on that subject. But yeah, I didn't realize that that's what it was until I guess not until now, but it's like you don't realize like, oh wow, like yeah, I wanted to play the drums. Got drum lessons, got a drum set, like just
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So, yeah, and I would say my mom is always the one that's like encouraging me or telling me my gifts and stuff, and I tend to downplay it because it's your parent. Like, not that
Yeah.
I think that she's gonna tell me anything. I know that my mom is honest. Like, she's not just gonna tell me something just because I'm her daughter. And it's like, oh yeah, Micayla, you're tall, babe. I'm 5'1". My mom would never say that. So it's like I think I tend to kind of just not realize that that's her like trying to nurture and grow this seed that she sees that I have planted, but I kind of just, okay, okay, mom, okay, because this is the person you've been with your whole life, so you hear it all the time, so it becomes. routine and mundane, and you just don't realize it until it's like, dang.
I think it's also like my mom has always expected greatness. So
Mm,
me being good at everything
mhm.
was just because like that's what was expected of
Should,
me.
yeah,
So I never thought of it as like
yeah.
I didn't I thought people were better than me, but like when my parents were telling me I was good at stuff, I'm like, I'm not really because such and such did this and this and this, and I
That's
didn't
kind of
even
how I am
imagine
too.
doing that. But I look
Yeah,
back and I'm like, oh, that was actually really, really good. And for me to do this
yeah.
at 10 years old, that's like kind of
Right.
crazy.
I looked
Yeah.
at this painting that I did in second grade, and I see the painting all the time because my mom literally, when I tell you she had it, she went to Michael's and had it framed. I picked out the color of the frame. It's like a double frame. It has like a orange little thin frame and then a black wood. I'm crisp with it. But she had that hanging up in the house for years. And then, I mean, she like took it down when she was just switching up the decor. But I looked at it probably like 2020, 2021. And I was just like, I painted this when I was in second grade. Like it was an abstract painting. So it's not like, oh, wow, look at the shadowing. But
hmm
it's just like, I look back at like, if I kept doing certain things because like, what the heck? But yeah, so I think for me, the way you said greatness was expected, I would say my family extremely educated, like all the way back to my great grandfather was a doctor, PhD. I don't know if he actually was, because back in the day, people are like called certain things and they weren't, but I think he
hmm
did have at least a master's, probably. I think he was he a preacher? I don't even know. But and then you have my granddad who extremely educated, an English teacher. He was a counselor. He has poems published. He had his own plane in the 70s. Like, what black man has his own plane that he's just flying
hmm
for leisure? Like, he would leave the house even when I was younger. Like, all right. And he was getting older. Like, he was at that point, he was like 80. So, it's getting dark. And my grandma sitting there worried, like, oh, did something happen to JB? It's getting dark. And my mom will be like, nah, daddy, you can't be out all day. You are 80. We need to make sure you touch the ground safely. But yeah, and then my grandma she wasn't an English teacher, but babe, when I tell you she made sure if I pronounced something incorrectly, she'd be like, weather. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like she'd be like, pen, not pen. I'm like, oh my God, okay, we get it. But so I think it's a level of expectation, like everyone in our family is intelligent, smart, creative to a certain extent. So it's expected without it being pressured. Like it's expected, like, oh yeah, she's smart. She gonna do this. But it's still applauded when it is good. Like if I, get an A in a class or
hmm
get like even though because of my certain level of intelligence or your children growing up, so it's like even though they're not shocked and it's somewhat expected, like yeah, okay, good job, but it's still a good job or whatever. So it's like hard to describe too because it's so much greatness in one family that when I'm not, I'm just like, am I the seed that just isn't gonna grow?
You know
Am
what?
I the end of the family lineage? And I'm a woman, so I can't even keep the family name. It's just, even though I don't have the family name, that's another topic. Ugh, got stuck with this name. Just kidding.
Could always change it.
No, because Micayla Calhoun doesn't sound
Does
good.
not
I don't
sound good. I'm
at
sorry.
all. That's
I wasn't
ugly.
gonna break your heart by
No,
telling
I've
you that,
never,
but
no, 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 no. If it was my name, cool, because I couldn't change it. But the fact that that is an ugly name, it's not good. Like,
mhm.
who made you feel unsafe, or was there any specific situation that made you feel unsafe and like kind of sticks out? Either one.
I think we have to define the term unsafe because I don't ever feel like I when I hear unsafe, I'm like, ooh, danger,
Right.
spooky.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't dangling over a window like Michael Jackson had blanket, but that's a little unsafe, Mike. We
But
love you, but
yeah, I would definitely say just like the whole church environment growing up was probably like one that sticks out the most for me
mm-hmm.
because I was constantly being picked at, yelled at. Um, I was told that's where I developed this thing where I thought I was ugly because I
Mm-hmm.
they yelled at the whole choir, but I'm the only light-skinned one. Um, and she was like, just because you're light-skinned and you have long hair doesn't make you pretty. The only light-skinned
Who
one with
says
long
that
hair
to a
was
kid
me.
though? Because
Um,
she was definitely projecting her insecurities. Because who says that to a kid? Because that
they
was an
would say
adult,
all
right?
kinds of yes, like
Like who
in her
says that?
50s. Yeah.
Psychological issues. If you're 50 something telling a kid that, babe, you must think you're hideous. Oh, hit
Yeah.
my face on the microphone.
So,
Oh God.
and I don't like to talk like about it because like I don't know, I loved church growing up and I as much as that would make someone else like that my experience growing up would make someone else like hate the church and leave the
Mm,
church and leave the Christianity altogether. I never felt that way. I knew I don't know why I knew at a young age that it was like other like
it
it was
wasn't
the
you and it
people.
wasn't, yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't
But
the
it was still hurtful to be
organization.
constantly yelled at and picked on and made fun of because I'm a very sensitive person and I cry a lot and I wasn't crying necessarily because they yelled at me, but it was
Mm-hmm.
just like I could never be good enough for them. Um
Mm-hmm.
and I remember when I was older, my dad had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Um my cousins, my mom's godparents are the pastor and first lady of her church. So I call them my cousins, but they're my god cousins, my mom's god sister's children.
Yeah, so like,
So
yeah.
they were like on family vacation for the summer or whatever. And um I had come in and I was like, hey everybody, nobody say anything to me. And so my mom worked in the kitchen every other Sunday or first and last
Mm-hmm.
Sunday. So I put my coat in the kitchen like I usually do. And I came out because we usually, pray before we go up. And when we go up the stairs, she pulls me to the side and she was like, I saw the way you looked when you came in here and you didn't speak to anybody. And I was like, I did speak. Nobody spoke back to me. Like, and she
Crazy.
just started saying all this stuff, but she didn't know my aunt was right there. So my aunt
Mm-hmm.
heard the whole thing and I'm crying and I go down to my mom and I tell her everything and she made me go back up there and not sing in the choir, but just go back up there and sit. And that for like a month, I did not go back to church. Like I was going to my grandparents' church, I was going to my dad's church, and then my mom was like, "You have to come back." But I was like, "I'm coming back, but I'm not singing in the choir." And then she tried to force me to get up there and sing in the choir, and I didn't. And she yelled at me for it. And then they had a message about obedience that day and she was like that message is for you. It was just a lot. um so it like all of that is
Maybe the message was for you, mom. Maybe you should be obedient to your child. Maybe you should listen to what your child is telling you.
yeah.
But
And I think
digress.
one of the last Christmas performances I did,
Mm-hmm.
um I got an award for not crying, which made me cry because like why would you embarrass me like that in front of
What?
everybody? Yeah,
Wait, it was
that
in front of the whole
I wasn't in
church?
college. Yeah, maybe it was like freshman year of college. Yeah, it was in front of
It
the
was in
whole
front of the whole
church.
church.
Yes,
And
after we were closing out our little Christmas program, whatever, and they were like, we just want to give two awards out tonight. Um, this first one, we just want to give out because, Sydney's back from college and all the yada yada yada. And she went through this whole thing and did not cry. If you know Sydney, I'm like, why would you say that about me?
yeah, because it would be one thing if they
Like
treated you
even in
right. Like,
private, I wouldn't. like
Yeah.
that.
No, no,
Like,
no. I'm saying it would be one thing if they treated you right and had a relationship to where they could joke like, you know how Sydney is. But the fact that you are the way you are towards me, first of all, all of a sudden I'm itching to go to church next Sunday. Give me the address.
no.
It's fine. I'll ask your mom. What church do you go to again? Something has been telling me to move. I need to be there this Sunday.
Okay. You are doing a lot right now. It's your turn. You
Let me
answer.
stop. Who made me feel unsafe? I wouldn't say unsafe, but just not safe. Like the way that I feel around my mom is I don't care what it could be a gun in my mama face, and I just know she gonna get us out of it. Like, but yeah, I would say my father, on the other hand, it's like I said, not that I felt unsafe, like I never felt like I was in imminent danger, like how you were saying, but it was like I didn't feel protected and shielded. It was just like
Mhm.
this person. And it's not that he did anything like to where something happens and he doesn't protect me or whatever, kind of like the situations you were talking about. It wasn't like that. It just is you have a feeling of safeness and you feel comfortable around
Like secure.
certain people's, yes, security. And I just never felt that. Like, and I didn't understand for the longest. I was kind of just like, I don't know why all my life, because when you think back to feelings or thoughts that you've had as a little kid, and it's like, where did that come from? So I never really understood, like, why don't I necessarily like being around this person or why don't I necessarily feel comfortable? And it's because from the time I was born, it just wasn't like he didn't really spend time or hold you or stuff like that. And I didn't know that until recently. Like, I didn't know that until my mom was telling me, like, well, he didn't really hold you. Well, when you were crying, he didn't really do anything. He would just give you back. But I would say that's the main thing. Like, I just didn't, I don't know. It was more so like, yeah, I just didn't feel like a paternally instinct. Like, he doesn't seem to have much of that. Whereas my mom, or my grandparents, I always feel safe and comfortable.
Mhm.
So I would say that is the main thing. But it wasn't any specific situations that happened. It just was overall, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so how do you think your family views you?
Um, I'm in this weird place in my family where I'm not really the oldest grandchild, but I have been raised as the oldest grandchild, and I don't like to put family business out there, but like my older cousin, like she was there when I was younger and then her mom took her away. So I feel like I was kind of really, that's how I became like the favorite grandchild because I feel like they really kind of nurtured me and like loved on me because she was just like gone.
Yeah, they were
Um,
missing that, I guess.
yeah, so I spent a lot of time like with my uncle, a lot of time with my grandparents. And I don't know, I just feel like on my mom's side of the family, I don't know if they view me this way, but I feel like I have to like I'm like put on a pedestal and I have to be perfect and set a great example for all my cousins and my brother because I'm the oldest and everybody's looking up to me and everybody put so much time and money into me that I need to like be perfect all the time and like have this
Mhm.
perfect career and speak to my younger cousins and encourage them and be set good examples for them and like make sure they're on the right path and um whereas on my dad's side of the family I don't really know them. It's just like I know my sister that's really it. I think my sister just loves me and thinks of me as her mini me, and it's great on that side. Yeah.
So for me, I got a couple different areas. So I am the baby of the family on both sides of my family. So on my mom's
Hmm.
side, I just have one other cousin, and then all the other like second cousins and all of them live in Alabama, and they're all older than me anyway. But I was never like around them at all. Like that whole side of the family pretty much stayed in Alabama and never left. So I was the youngest, I was the baby, but I hate to say it. If my cousin is listening, which she probably is not, but if by chance, I hate to say it, but I really truly believe I was the favorite grandchild because she was older than me, but she never lived in Michigan.
Hmm.
Me, I lived here. Okay. Number one, I lived here. Number two, I mean, have you met me? Like, everybody loved me. And then me and my granddad, like I said, we were just so much alike. Like, it was my mom was like, I didn't know that he collected rocks until you started collecting rocks and he was giving you rocks that he had for years. And then like I used to write poetry and my granddad wrote poetry. Like everything is just so I was like his little mini me. We always played games around or played hide and seek around the house or, stuff like that. I would dip Easter eggs and bake cakes with my grandma. So it was like
Hmm.
I was that, I hate to say the apple of their eye, but call me Steve Jobs. Let me stop. Anyway, um, yeah, and then my mom, only child that was birthed by Michelle. So what do you think? She loves me. She loves me. Now, I'm not a handful in the fact that like I was a bad kid, but I was just a little high maintenance, meaning like if I'm not with my mom, I'm crying. Like if she drops me off with a friend, or even if my dad picks me up from school, I'm crying. It doesn't matter. I'm going to cry. Where's my mother? Where's Michelle? Because you don't look nothing like her, babe. So I was that, and from a young age, we knew I was gonna be OCD. Like we already knew it. And looking back at things, it's like that was probably anxiety. So I was that like easy baby, meaning I'm
Hmm.
not fussing and moving a lot, but little high maintenance when you got to tell me certain things and look at me. So then at the same time, I feel like, and I feel like this is really grandiose, but I feel like the golden child because I was always told how smart I was, how good I was at everything. Like, oh, wow, she's great at playing the drums. She's extremely smart. She's great at art, great at basketball. And so it's like, I know I was looked at as she's going to
Hmm.
do something. I still am like that. Like, I still know in my heart, like, I'm gonna do something. I just don't
You
know
are
what.
destined for greatness.
And that's why I feel like when I look at this is a side note, but like you ever look at like interviews from famous people or people who are extremely successful and they are just like, I just always knew that I was going to
Hmm.
do something or be something. I'm like that. Like, I just know, like, there's no way. And I don't know if it's me being delusional, which you have to have some of that, but I don't know if it's me being like, this is the default because I know that I've always been good at things and smart. So I don't know if this is the default. Like, no, I can't fail. I can't because I am destined. I am gonna do something great because, babe,
You want
I'm
to be
smart.
somebody, if you want to go somewhere, you better wake
You
up and
gotta
pay
wake up and pay
attention.
attention. I keep saying that. I've said that like 3 times at work this week. But anyway, so yeah, I was always, I mean, even my dad, like I was always smart, whatever. So now on my dad's side, how am I viewed? And this is a lot of this is based off of my opinions, which so don't quote me. This isn't like I know for a fact,
Everything
but
we're saying is
my
based off
yeah,
opinions.
yeah. Well, the
I
mama
mean,
side,
some of it is fact,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like,
But like for my dad's side, I just feel like I don't think that whenever somebody has a family member that like doesn't do right or they're like in denial or just won't admit it. So I feel like I am feel like they look at me as like, why doesn't she come around? Like, why? Like, I know for a fact my dad and my stepmom, like, because my stepmom would be like, when are you gonna visit? And I got tired one time, like 2 years ago. She was like, you need to visit your dad. I'm like, we'll see. Like, literally, like, we'll see. She was like, you need to, babe, don't talk about what you don't know. You came into the picture after the fact. Don't talk to me. But I feel like, yeah, I'm looked at as that because I had heard I went to visit him in 2020 during the pandemic because my mom was getting tired of me. So she was like, go with your daddy. So I went down there for a couple weeks and
I remember that.
it was something that was said on the phone. He was talking to my aunt, his sister, and it what I can't remember the exact words that were said, but he was kind of like, yeah, I'm happy to have my daughter here, whatever. Like, I wish she would, come around more, whatever he was saying. And she kind of was just like, yeah, you know how that is. And to me, the way I interpret it is because I'm really good at non-verbal cues and like
Mm-hmm.
reading between the lines. What I got from that is I feel like they think that my mother is involved in why I don't come around. And also they feel like I'm kind of just like, I don't want to be around. But it's also like, I feel like if you do the math, 1 + 1 + 1 is 3. You have 3 kids. None of us really come around that much. I am the middle one. Like my older, well, they're both older, but the oldest brother, he's more like he had lived there for a split second, like a year or something. But he was closer. He's still closer. Like he comes around more or talks more or calls more, whatever. I'm like, I'm not really gonna call unless once we get to about 5 missed calls from you and it's been about 2 or 3 months, I guess I might call you back. My other brother, he don't even, we went to the family reunion. He wasn't there. Like he doesn't come around at all. Like he just, so I feel like I don't know if they just don't get the point or if they're just in denial. But I feel like that's how I'm looked at as just like, why doesn't she come around? Because he's very good at, and I don't know if it's intentional, but he's very good at talking very highly of his kids. But I don't think I don't think it's intentional because I do think in his head, he's like, I love my kids, blah, 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 blah. You might think so, but the actions are giving, do you know what love is?
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be like, I went to the family reunion. I haven't been around those folks in 20 years. And I just really want my cousins to know like whatever I have going on with my dad has nothing to do with them or my siblings. Like I still love them. Like I still have the memories from when I would visit or I would be around them. And I love them. I love them. Like the cousin that I'm the closest to, he's 3 years older than me. We were like this, and he lived up here for a minute. I just was too young to actually remember those times, but we was like this growing up. And then my older cousin, we were the only girl cousin, so it was like we was linked up like that. And then her mom would braid my hair sometimes. Like I just want them to. I hope that they understand that it's nothing that I have even against anyone else in the family. It's just if I don't want to be around my dad, I'm not gonna be around y'all. Like I'm just not gonna be over there. Especially y'all are in a different state. So it's not like I can just link up with you and not.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, next question.
What critical messages did you receive as a child, and how did they shape your self-image?
So by critical, we mean like critical, like negatively, right? Like it's
Probably.
not critical
I mean,
meaning
it could be
pivotal.
positive too, but
Well, I was just thinking because critical could mean like pivotal or
mm-hmm.
substantial,
Yeah.
or it could also mean like critical, like you're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid. So I would say if we're talking about importance, I don't know. Like I said, just my mom was very reassuring and supportive about most things. And like she always taught me to be honest. So to this day, I can't lie to save my life. I have to come up with a lie like 2 days in advance to lie to you. And it probably
I'm the
will still be
opposite.
bad. Like
On the
my
spot,
mom
I
always
gotcha.
told see, my mom always told me like, be honest and I won't get mad. If I find out
Mm-hmm.
you're lying, I'm going to be mad at you. So I always would just tell the truth. And she was a woman of her word because I would tell the truth and she would not be mad. And looking back, the things I was telling the truth about wasn't crazy, like wasn't so bad, but I sure would tell the truth. So now I can only tell the truth. I go out, a man asks me, "Are you single? What's your name?" "Yes, I'm Micayla." "Girl, don't tell him that. Your name is Sydney." Like, stop. My friends are always like, "You need to come up with a fake name. Why did you tell him you were single? Why didn't you say you had a boyfriend?" First of all, that's not really gonna stop too many guys anyway. Second of all, I can't do it. It's just so bad. Like, even if like some people like to say they didn't receive their order on DoorDash. I can't do it. I can't do that either. Cause I'm like, what if the driver gets in trouble? Oh my God, I can't.
No,
So yeah,
I
I would
don't
say
do
that.
lies like that because I would definitely feel like I would get caught and
But like
mm-mm.
little white
But
lies.
my parents will ask me, "Oh, what you have for dinner?" I don't know why. Like I won't tell them what I have for dinner. I'll just make something up. Like why?
What?
And
Yeah,
then I do
that's
that, and I'm like, "Why
different.
did I do that?" I just feel like it's in like an evasion of privacy or something. Like, why do you want to know what I had for dinner? Are you gonna judge me that I'm fixated on this one meal and I'm having it every night for the past month?
Okay.
Like,
Okay. But I would say critical as in like negative. Um, it's funny. I told my mom this recently. Like my mom, when I got to like middle school, high school, when I tell you lazy was her favorite thing to call me, come to find out I had ADHD. And I'd be like, all the time you were calling me lazy. And I literally just couldn't physically, mentally make myself do things. So thanks. Still to this day, I'm like, is this really like I'm still like, you know how some people have imposter syndrome? I have imposter ADHD syndrome. Like, am I really ADHD or am I just lazy? Do I really like have a problem? Or do I just have no drive? Do I really lack the motivation to get things done? Or am I just a procrastinator because I'm afraid of failure? Oh, sponsored by Adderall. Anyway, so
mine would be
yeah, I would
sponsored
say
by
that.
Prozac.
uh, I would say that, but the other thing, like, I don't know, it's been a theme, not often, but it's been a theme because it's never really been a woman, other than like, your grandparent, like the grandmas, like they're used to like back in the day, like, gotta be a certain, you gotta be right and tight. And so
Mhm.
my grandma would sometimes be like, "Girl, you gonna be as big as the house. You're gonna be as big as me, girl. You're not even that big." But I would say I've noticed that the men in my life, not my granddaddy, because like I said, that was my road dog. He ain't never say anything. I know his vision wasn't that great, but he could see enough. But like the men in my life, or even like a man that I don't even know that well, they always have to bring up something like, "Oh, you gained a little weight," or "Oh, you like." I remember one time my dad, my dad said to me, I was in Victoria's Secret slash Pink, and this was like in high school when the
They were
windbreakers were
popping.
popular. So everybody wanted to. When I tell you, I still have like I have a container in my room of just pink windbreakers. That's like, Micayla, let it go. You haven't worn those in like 8 years.
I mean,
But
2000s are coming back. Might want to pop them back
Jesus.
out.
So I had gone there and I wanted to get a windbreaker. And I don't remember if it was the windbreaker or if I wanted some leggings too, but it was something where I was like, I don't know, should I get a medium and he said something like, "When have you ever been a medium?" or "When have you ever been small?" or something. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, first of all, how would you know? Because how often are you around to know my size? Exactly. You know my shoe size. That's about it, sir. And then I was like, what are you talking about? I literally wear a medium. I don't know what you're talking about. Or like even I remember one time my uncle, and they always have the nerve. Cause my uncle, he done lost a little weight lately, but baby, that stomach was bulging. And you're telling me I've gained a little weight. Sir, I don't care how much weight I've gained. I don't look my weight. You do. And your head is probably taking up most of it. It's very big. You probably wouldn't even fit in this screen. So I'm gonna need you to pause. And then I remember another time, it's like people don't realize the things that stick out in people's heads, but it's also like I don't take it too personally because I don't look at myself like A man, maybe a woman, maybe I'll be like, well, she do know how to weight distributes. But a man is just like, you're a stupid man. Like you're just a dumb person who doesn't understand or doesn't realize the thing that you're saying are actually stupid and slightly harmful. And if I was slightly more insecure, maybe I jump. But it's like I was walking to work one day. This is recently, like, well, more recent. This is like 2, 3 years ago. I was walking to work and I got out of my car. I'm walking in the building. The janitor. First of all, sir, you're you should insult people in your tax bracket. But that's beside the point. I'm not insulting janitors at all. But honey, I'm employed here. You're the temp service. Why are you talking to me about my weight? And you're bald. Oh, but let you talk about a man head reflecting light. It's a problem. They getting insecure. You don't have no hair follicles left. That's why your head is so shiny. And I'm wrong. So anyway, I'm walking and he was like, you busting through them pants, ain't you? Are you talking to me? Let me walk in because I would talk to him every day. So like we were cool, but it was just like, what gave you the right to say this? So that has been a theme in my life. Like the men say something, or even my dad. It's usually my dad. I'll see him once after a couple of years, and he'll be saying something about my weight. Like, sir, can you still grow hair? Do you grow any black hair? Hmm. Let's worry about your relationship with your. Oh, okay. How about the one that got away, Michelle, my mother? You still depressed about that? Is that why you lost your hair? Let's talk about that. So yeah, I would say that, but it didn't necessarily make me think like it didn't really affect my self image, but it was kind of just like your point. I gained a few pounds and I'm still lighter than you. Point. You break the scale. Oh, okay. So yeah. What about you?
Okay.
Any other?
I would say the same thing about weight. Like my uncle would constantly bring that up, like, oh, you need to stay in the gym, you need to keep playing a sport so
It's
that you can
always the
stay small.
men. The
Yeah. My dad was
audacity.
never like that though. He would always like when I told him how much I weigh, I was like, I was saying like I want to lose like 5 pounds and I feel like I'd be good. And he was like, Sydney, you don't weigh that much. You have to be like 100. I was like, Dad,
It's
if I was
always
100, I would be in the
the men.
hospital.
That's
Like,
the thing. Like men, first of all, they are so bad at gauging how much we weigh and our weight distribution. Meanwhile, we could look at a man. I might not guess it right on the dot if you a little overweight or you taller, but I can kind of, you know, they be thinking just because I'm 5'1", I gotta be 85 pounds. Like somebody had told me, like, nah, what are you, 135? Sir, I wasn't even 135 when I started high school. So I wish. If I was 135, I would be skinny. My bones would be rubbing together. But it's always the men. What is it
hmm
about the men? Because I don't look at a man and say, oh, you need to get in the gym more, your stomach. It's just like, okay, you got a stomach. What makes them
exactly.
feel like, and I think it's different because too, like, obviously we're stereotypically the more emotional uh gender and they're the more like, so I think some of it too is like a man can call another man fat and it's like ha, even though I think that they also like glaze over that because I'll be like, dang, how many fat jokes you gonna make about, like when I'm at work I'm like, dang, how many fat jokes you gonna make, you might really be hurting his feelings. But then they talk to a woman, it's like, sir, why are you telling me this? I live in America with all these European standards and I'm a black woman. You think my hips are gonna be a 30? Never gonna be that. If I'm a 30, please give me an IV drip. Like I need it. Give me some insurance. Well, like I'm like, what? Sponsored by, it's like no,
You know,
but like it's
it's
just I don't get it. It's like they just thrive on telling somebody they have gained a couple pounds. Like I do own a mirror. Not sure about you because have you seen your outfit? But I do own a mirror. These thighs keeping me warm. Meanwhile, like,
No.
All right.
So I would hear it from him, and then I remember at my great aunt's funeral, one of my cousins was like, "You look just like your mom, but your mom was skinnier." So that just,
Ew.
yeah.
What?
And then at the same time, like I used to dance, so I had like two dance teachers who would always be telling us we need to be thinner. One of them was older and like she used to dance for Alvin Ailey. So
Mhm.
she was like, when did dancers ever become this fat? Mind you, she was bigger than all of us.
Combined.
But no, not combined, but like she
I was
definitely
just
wasn't
kidding.
like thin. So
Yeah.
it was just like, what are you trying to say? And um that's when I would start like skipping lunch at school and like be in the
Hmm.
library because you couldn't eat in the library. So I would just be in there doing my work or like not eating like my lunch just in general. And my mom would be like, why didn't you eat your lunch? Or I would like sneak and like try to figure something out where she wouldn't know that I hadn't eaten my lunch.
Just throw it
Um,
away.
I didn't want to
Not
be
me
wasteful.
encouraging it, but she said I didn't want to be. We love you. Sydney said I didn't want to be wasteful. I would
So
have gave it to another kid or something like,
I
no,
would
my
sometimes give some stuff away, but it was just like I don't know. Yeah. So
didn't
that
want to
happened.
be
But I
wasteful.
also had migraines, so that like it just never really worked out for me because I would get really bad headaches if I didn't eat.
Yeah, so
So yeah. And then outside of that, I would just say like just comments about being light skinned. It just always made me feel really insecure. And I used to be
mhm,
jealous of mixed people that they would be darker than me because I was like, how do I have two black parents and like you're darker than me? Like
mhm,
even like my cousin, my dad's brother, his daughter, like my cousins over on that side, I'm like, how are they like how you have a white parent, like why how are y'all darker than me? But yeah, it's just genetics. It's crazy.
crazy how they work, huh?
Yeah.
That's great. I have my two cousins on my dad's side, light bright, light eyes, like hazel or like grayish. I don't know. I ain't stared in her eyes. But dad, very dark skin. Mom, she's not dark skin. She's not light. She just, I
Hmm.
don't know. It's like between like a brown skin, caramelish, whatever. They came out light bright with light eyes. You know why? Because their dad, dark skin, blue eyes. I'm like, isn't that crazy how the genetics just pop through? Like blue, I mean, even though everybody came from us black folks, so even the blue-eyed creatures came from us. But it's just crazy. Like, I know he probably used to get clowned by his boys until the second one came out, and they were like, okay, I guess it is yours because they look like twins. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Because people always assume that I'm mixed until they see my parents like college graduation. Everybody was like, oh,
You're not white?
I was like, you never
What's that
asked.
from White Girls? You're not white? They were having a crisis.
Okay. The next question is, how did you deal with your emotions when you were younger?
Deal. Who said I did that? Who said I dealt with emotions? Who says I even still do? Um, I would say I tend to joke and be unserious when something is actually wrong, or if it's something serious enough to like when my grandparents died, I didn't really talk about it. Like I wasn't joking about it, but I just didn't talk about it. So I tend to not address it unless like I'm good with being vulnerable and addressing things with you and other friends like on a FaceTime or just talking. But
Hmm.
for the most part, when it's something that is actually bothering me or I don't want to talk about it, I'm gonna crack a joke. I'm going to be goofy, and people will be like, "No, Micayla, like that's not funny. Be for real." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can't." So, yeah, I learned at a young age because I've always been goofy. I've always been funny. Like even my mom was always like, "Girl, you've always been funny. You just as you get older, you just get funnier because I can actually laugh at the stuff because you're grown now." But I would say I learned at a young age I can shield other people from knowing, not necessarily shield myself. Like I know full well how I feel about something, but I don't like to let other people know that something is bothering me. More specifically, like my mom, I learned at a young age I'm going to joke about this so that she thinks that like I'm cool, whatever, so that she doesn't have to worry or think that I'm struggling with something or that I'm feeling a certain type of way about something. So I tend to deal with things that way and deflect it with comedy. If I can make you laugh, like whatever. Like my cousin, when her dad died, I was at the funeral and we had gone to the bathroom and I was saying something and she was like cracking up. And I'm like, in my head, like, dang, if I can make somebody laugh at their father's funeral, I can do anything. But yeah, so that's a main thing on, I wouldn't say necessarily deal with it, but that's how I guess that's partially dealing with it, like dealing and not dealing with it. It's kind of both. And then also, I tend to not deal with things, meaning like I am going to, my mom always says, like, you don't like to deal with the problem. You just like to run. You want to talk about it later, talk about it later. And do. Why would I want to talk about that? I don't want to talk about that. I'll talk about it later. And then when later comes, I'll be like, girl, I'm sleepy. I gotta go to bed. So I do tend to, yeah, like even when it comes to like my mom always wants to talk about like, what's your plan? What school? When I tell you, I told her, give me till March 1st. I don't want you to talk about it, anything, ask me about anything. Give me till March 1st. This lady calls me. I'm I'm not even like really up yet. She calls me at like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, oh, did I wake you? Are you up? Whatever. You know what this lady said? She said, I just want you to know. And it took a minute for it to click. She's like, I just want you to know. You know what today is? It's March 5th. I just want you to know. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what's going on March 5th, March 5th? She's like, you said March 1st. So the next time I call you, you gonna have to be ready to talk. I said, I have to answer first. You might get blocked, babe. But yeah, so I tend to not deal with things. And also the third and final thing is I shut my emotions off. I've told you this multiple times, but it's not on purpose. I don't sit here and say, I'm crying. Let me stop. It's like I'm crying. If somebody calls me, if I go to, I don't know, if I go walk into a place or something, it's like that. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to tell myself stop crying unless it's like really bad. Like if I'm like bawling, okay, maybe. But for the most part, it cuts off. And I'm pretty sure that came from like I would visit my dad and like I would just have to like push every emotion I was feeling down because I didn't want him to know that I wasn't happy or that I was crying or whatever. I remember like one time I had called my mom in the bathroom and she was like, what are they doing to my child? Because I had called her like crying, but I was like, I have to call you in the bathroom because they don't want me to keep calling you and cry, whatever. So I think that's where I like learned to don't
Mhm.
show that you're disappointed. Don't show that you're sad. Don't show that whatever. So now it's like when I'm out in public, I can't feel emotion the same way that I do if I'm at home or on the phone with my mom or you. Like it's really weird because sometimes I want to feel that emotion, but every time I'm like, ugh, I'm probably gonna cry when this happens, or oh, if I graduate, it never happens. Like I'm like, oh, that's nice. And then after something happens, I'm just like, I didn't cry. I thought I was gonna cry, or I thought I was gonna feel more emotional than I did, but I didn't. Maybe I'm a psychopath. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm really good at that. Very good habit slash talent of mine. So if I answer the phone, I might have been crying slightly 2 minutes before, maybe. So, yeah. All right, that wraps up part one. We actually needed two parts for this. So, tune in next time to hear the last part of this episode. Thanks.